The courtroom buzzes as Judge Victor Rollins slams his gavel, dismissing 17-year-old Aisha Monroe's petty theft case with a sneer, calling her another troublemaker, despite no proof. Her steady gaze hides a bombshell. She's General Leonard Monroe's daughter, an NSA powerhouse. Seconds later, a brick crashes through the courthouse window, grazing her cheek, smeared with "Go Back" in red paint. Rollins chuckles, unfazed, but Aisha's resolve hardens. This fight's far from done. Her quiet life's now a ticking bomb, with enemies lurking. What's their next move? Before we dive in, let me know where you're watching from, and if you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe for more gripping tales like Aisha's. Aisha Monroe steps off the city bus in Charlotte, North Carolina, her sneakers scuffing the cracked pavement as she adjusts her backpack. It's a sticky 85-degree afternoon, the kind where the air clings like a second skin, but her focus is razor-sharp. She's 17, a senior at West Charlotte High, and today she's chasing a dream: art supplies for a scholarship portfolio that could land her at Duke University. Her braids bounce with each purposeful stride toward the sprawling South Park Mall, a gleaming fortress of glass and steel that feels worlds away from her neighborhood's peeling paint and potholed streets. She's got $40 saved from babysitting, enough for a sketch pad and some decent pencils. Her mind's already sketching murals, bold strokes of color that scream her story, her fight. She doesn't know it yet, but this ordinary errand is about to ignite a wildfire that'll burn her life to cinders. Inside, the mall hums with chatter and the clink of escalators. Aisha weaves through clusters of shoppers, past designer bags she'll never own, until she reaches Craft Haven, a cluttered art store tucked between a pretzel stand and a phone kiosk. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting a sterile glow on shelves stuffed with paints, brushes, and paper. She's in her element, fingers tracing the edges of a $10 sketch pad, thick enough for charcoal, cheap enough to fit her budget. Her lips curve into a rare smile, imagining the portfolio that'll wow the scholarship board. She's got a shot at escaping the grind, proving she's more than the troublemaker label some teachers slap on kids from her block. But that dream's about to crash. Near the front counter, a sharp voice cuts through the store's hum. Aisha glances up, curious. A scrawny clerk, Ralph Hensley, looms over a skinny Latino boy she vaguely recognizes from a rival school, East Mecklenburg. The kid's maybe 15, all nervous energy, clutching a crumpled $5 bill. Ralph, a wiry guy in his 40s with a patchy beard and a hawkish stare, jabs a finger at him. "I saw you stuff those markers in your pocket, punk. Don't." "Play dumb." The boy, stammering, shakes his head, his voice cracking. "I didn't take nothing, man, I swear." Aisha frowns, sensing the tension coiling like a spring. She's seen this script before. A brown kid, a white accuser, and a story that's already written in the clerk's mind. Ralph's face reddens, his bony hands balling into fists. "You think I'm stupid? I know your type." The boy's eyes dart to the door, panic flashing. Aisha hesitates, her gut twisting. She's no stranger to injustice, her dad's lectures about keeping your head down echoing in her skull. But something snaps inside her, a spark of that fire her mum says she inherited from General Leonard Monroe. She steps forward, sketchpad in hand, voice steady. "He said he didn't do it. Maybe check the cameras before you jump him." Ralph's head whips around, his glare landing on her like a spotlight. "Mind your business, girl," he spits, venom lacing every word. Before she can argue, the boy bolts, shoving past a display of paint cans that clatter to the tile. Ralph lunges after him, yelling, but the kid's gone, vanishing into the mall's chaos. Aisha sighs, figuring it's over. She's wrong. Ralph spins back, his fury finding a new target. Her, the only other brown face in sight. He storms over, blocking her path to the register, his breath sour with coffee and spite. "Young lady, you're not going anywhere." Aisha blinks, stunned, clutching her sketchpad tighter. "What? I'm just buying this." She holds up the receipt she grabbed from the self-checkout, the timestamp still warm from the printer. 3:47 p.m., March 11, 2025. Ralph snatches it, barely glancing before tossing it aside. "Nice try. You're with him, aren't you, covering for your little thief buddy?" Aisha's jaw drops, heat flooding her cheeks. I don't even know that kid. I've got my receipt right there. Her voice stays level, but inside, fear spikes, sharp and cold. She's never met this boy, never spoken to him, but Ralph's already convicted her. Guilty by association, guilty by skin. His lips curl into a sneer. You people always lie. Think you can fool me? The words hit like a slap, echoing every whispered slur she's overheard in hallways, every side-eye, from teachers who assume she's trouble. She stands taller, forcing calm. I paid for my book. I did nothing wrong. Ralph ignores her, yanking his phone from his pocket. Yeah, 911? I've got a thief here. Black girl, about 16, trying to scam my store. Aisha's stomach lurches, disbelief choking her. She's no thief, no scammer, just a girl with a receipt and a dream. But Ralph's call seals her fate. Within minutes, the store's swarming with security, two beefy guys in cheap uniforms who grab her, arms without asking. Let's go, Missy, one grunts, his grip bruising her elbow. She twists, protesting. Check the cameras, I've got proof. They don't listen, neither does Ralph, who's now smirking, arms crossed like he's won some sick game. The mall's a blur as they drag her past gaping shoppers, her backpack bouncing against her spine. Whispers ripple through the crowd. What did she do? Probably stole something. Aisha's chest tightens, shame and rage warring inside her. She's not handcuffed, but she might as well be, paraded like a criminal for buying a sketch pad. Outside, two Charlotte PD cruisers screech up, lights flashing, sirens wailing. 4 cops pile out, hands on holsters, eyes hard. Step over here, one barks. A stocky white guy with a buzz cut. Aisha complies, her receipt crumpled in her fist, but they don't even look at it. They pat her down right there, in front of the gawking mall crowd, hands rough against her jeans and hoodie. Anything sharp? The cop mutters, finding nothing but her pencils and phone. She repeats herself, voice trembling now. I paid for it, check the receipt. The cop shrugs, tossing her backpack to another officer, who rummages through it. Story checks out, the second cop admits, holding up the date-stamped paper. But Ralph, hovering nearby, pipes up. She's lying. She's with that other kid. They're a team. The cops exchange glances, then nod to Ralph. Your call, sir. Aisha's heart sinks as Ralph insists on pressing charges, claiming a conspiracy between her and a boy she's never met. The store manager, a balding guy in a cheap suit, backs him up, muttering about keeping the mall safe. Within minutes, she's shoved into the back of a cruiser, the door slamming shut with a finality that echoes in her bones. The vinyl seat sticks to her thighs, the air thick with stale sweat and despair. Through the tinted window, she watches. The mall shrink, her ordinary day spiraling into a surreal nightmare. Disbelief churns in her gut, mixing with a bitter betrayal she can't name. She's heard her dad, General Leonard Monroe, talk about racial profiling, his stern voice drilling lessons into her since she was 10. Comply, stay calm, let the truth win. But this is a sucker punch she never saw coming. Her fingers clutch the sketch pad, its edges creased from the chaos. It's all she has left of her scholarship plan, a lifeline to a future now dangling by a thread. The cruiser jolts over a pothole and her mind races. She's no thief, no delinquent. She's an A student, a girl who volunteers at the community center, who dreams of painting the world's pain into something beautiful. But to Ralph, to the cops, to this city, she's just another black face to pin a crime on. The precinct looms ahead, a squat brick building with flickering lights. An officer hauls her out, her sneakers scraping asphalt as they march her inside. She's not cuffed, not yet, but the weight of their stares pins her down. Petty theft, one mutters, scribbling her name on a report. Aisha's throat burns, tears threatening, but she swallows them. She won't break. Not here. Her dad's face flashes in her mind, his NSA uniform crisp, his voice steady. He'd know what to do, how to fight this. She clings to that, picturing him storming in to fix it all. But as the booking officer snaps her photo, the flash blinding her, reality crashes in. This isn't just a misunderstanding. It's a war she didn't sign up for, one that's already costing her everything. Her scholarship, her reputation, her peace, all teetering on the edge because Ralph Hensley saw her skin and wrote her guilty. The cell door clanks shut, and she sinks onto a cold bench, the sketchpad trembling in her hands. This is just the beginning. Aisha Munro sits rigid on a wooden bench in the Mecklenburg County Courthouse, her wrists still aching from the cruiser's tight grip yesterday. The room reeks of old polish and stale coffee, its high ceilings amplifying every cough and shuffle. She's in a navy blazer her mom, Dr. Erica Munro, ironed at dawn, the fabric stiff against her skin. Her braids are pulled back tight, framing a face that's calm but simmering, a volcano waiting to blow. At 17, she's no stranger to pressure, acing exams and dodging whispers about her ghetto roots. But this is a beast she never trained for. 2 days after Ralph Hensley's false theft charge at the mall, she's staring down Judge Victor Rollins, a man whose name sends shivers through Charlotte's black neighborhoods. Can a courtroom really choke justice this fast? The judge looms behind his bench, a grizzled relic in his 60s, all sharp angles and sharper prejudices. His robe hangs loose on a frame carved from years as a beat cop, busting kids like Aisha for breathing wrong. His grey eyes rake over her, lips twitching into something between a smirk and a scowl. She's seen that look before, on teachers who flunked her papers without reading them, on cops who stopped her dad's car just to check. Rollins' reputation precedes him. 20 years of jailing black teens for jaywalking, while white frat boys walk free with DUIs. Today he's got Aisha in his crosshairs, and she feels it, a noose tightening before the rope's even tied. What kind of man decides guilt before the gavel drops? Her lawyer, Carla Evans, stands beside her, a wiry woman in her 40s, with a buzz cut and a fire Aisha respects. Carla's got a stack of papers thicker than a textbook, the receipt from Craft Haven, time-stamped and pristine, statements from 2 shoppers who saw Ralph's tantrum, even a blurry still from a mall camera showing Aisha scanning her sketchpad alone. It's a slam dunk, or it should be. Carla adjusts her glasses, voice crisp as she faces Rollins. Your Honor, the evidence is clear. My client purchased her item legally. The clerk's accusation is baseless and the police overreacted. She slides the receipt across the table, a lifeline Aisha clings to. Will facts even matter in this room? Rollins barely glances at it, his fingers drumming the bench like he's bored. Evidence, huh? His tone's thick with sarcasm, a drawl that grates Aisha's nerves. Let's hear from the state. The prosecutor, a slick guy named Darren Holt in a pinstripe suit, steps up, all teeth and confidence. Your Honor, the defendant was present during a theft. The store clerk, a credible witness, identified her as an accomplice. Her proximity to the suspect raises questions. Aisha's stomach twists. Proximity. She was 10 feet away, minding her business. Holt's spinning a tale out of thin air, and Rollins is lapping it up. How can lies sound so polished? Carla fires back, slamming the witness statements down. These accounts contradict Mr. Hensley. He targeted my client based on nothing but her race. No stolen goods were found, no connection proven. This is profiling. Plain and simple. Aisha's pulse quickens, hope flickering. Carla's good, cutting through the nonsense with a blade of truth. But Rollins leans forward, cutting her off mid-sentence. Enough, Ms. Evans. I don't need a lecture on character. Evidence doesn't change what she is. His voice drips venom, the is landing like a branding iron. Aisha's fists clench under the table. What's that supposed to mean? In the gallery, General Leonard Monroe watches, his broad shoulders squared under a plain grey jacket. No, NSA uniform today, just a dad blending in, but his jaws tight, eyes locked on Rollins. He's a titan at Fort Bragg, a high-ranking officer who's stared down terrorists and bureaucrats alike. Seeing his daughter here, caged by a system he's fought to protect, churns his gut with a fury he buries deep. He told Aisha to trust the process, but now he's doubting it himself. Can a man like Rollins be blind to justice, or is he just choosing the dark? The judge shifts, peering at Aisha over his half-moon glasses. Girl, you got anything to say? His tone's a challenge, daring her to squirm. She stands, legs steady, despite the quake in her chest. Your Honor, I'm innocent. I paid for my sketch pad. I wasn't with anyone. Check the footage, the receipt, anything. I'm not a thief. Her words are clear, measured, but Rollins's sneer deepens, like she's insulted him by speaking. He bangs the gavel once, sharp and loud, even though the room's dead quiet. That's enough. I've heard plenty. Does he even care what she said? Carla jumps in, voice rising. Your Honor, the prosecution has no case. We request immediate dismissal. Holt smirks, leaning back like he's already won. Rollins rubs his chin, staring at Aisha like she's a puzzle he's too lazy to solve. Probable cause is thin, he mutters, almost to himself. No goods, no witnesses sticking. Case dismissed. Aisha exhales, a rush of relief flooding her veins. Carla grips her shoulder, whispering, We did it. Leonard's eyes soften in the back, a rare crack in his steel. It's over, right? A win against the odds? Not quite. Rollins leans forward, pointing a bony finger at Aisha. Stay out of trouble, girl. Next time I won't be so generous. His warning lands like a brick, heavy with threat. Aisha nods, biting back a retort as Carla hustles her out. The courtroom clears, but the victory feels hollow, a bandage on a gaping wound. She's free. Technically, but Rollins' words echo, a promise of worse to come. She heads home, sketching in her mind, thinking she's dodged the bullet. She's wrong again. By midnight, her phone buzzes, a notification lighting up the dark. A video's gone viral. Her arrest at the mall, edited to hell, her face twisted into a snarl, the caption screaming, Teen thief caught red-handed. Who turned her win into this? The clip's a butcher job, splicing her protests into growls, zooming on her clenched fists like she's lunging. Comments flood in, vicious and fast. Lock her up. Typical. Send her back. Aisha's breath catches, her scholarship dreams flickering like a dying bulb. She scrolls numb as the views climb past 10,000. Ralph's voice haunts her. You people always lie, now amplified by a faceless mob. Leonard storms in, phone in hand, already dialing Carla. This is retaliation, he growls. They're not done. Aisha stares at the screen, the fragile win crumbling. What's it worth when the world's already judged her guilty? Her dad's right, this isn't the end, it's a spark. The courthouse dismissal was just a pause, a breath before the plunge. Rollins's sneer, Ralph's lies, the cop's shrugs. They're all threads in a web she's tangled in. She shuts her phone off, but the damage is done. Her name's a hashtag now, a punching bag for every bigot with a keyboard. She's not just fighting a charge anymore, she's fighting a city, a system, a hate that's got claws. Carla's voice crackles through Leonard's speaker, urgent. We'll sue for defamation, this won't stand. But Aisha wonders, can they outrun the storm that's already breaking? Drop a comment with number 1 if you think Aisha's getting railroaded by a racist system here. Or number 2, if you believe she should have stayed quiet in court. Smash that like button if you're raging at Rollins's bias. And subscribe to catch how this fight explodes next. Imagine you're Aisha, facing a judge who's already convicted you in his head. What's your move when the gavel drops? Speaking of drops, what happens when a mob decides her win isn't enough? Stick around to find out. Aisha Munro trudges up the cracked concrete steps of her family's 2-story home in Charlotte's Greer Heights, her sneakers heavy with exhaustion. It's dusk, the sky bleeding orange over the modest row houses, their chipped paint glowing, faintly in the fading light. She's still reeling from the courthouse. Judge Rollins' dismissal a thin shield against the viral video shredding her name online. Her backpack sags, the sketchpad inside a lifeline she's clinging to after yesterday's arrest at the mall. The air's thick, 90 degrees, humidity wrapping her like a wet blanket. She unlocks the door expecting quiet, maybe her mum's voice calling from the kitchen. Instead, she hears a low roar, like thunder rolling closer. She steps inside, dropping her bag, and freezes. Through the living room window she sees them, 50 bodies clogging the street, a sea of flushed faces and clenched fists. Men in trucker hats, women with sunburned cheeks, a few teens clutching bats. They're chanting, words slurring into a venomous hum. Thief! Thief! Aisha's pulse spikes, her breath catching as she spots a sign. Keep our city clean! Another cruder just says go back. Her chest tightens. This isn't random. This is Ralph Hensley's doing. The clerk's lies from Craft Haven, now a match tossed into dry grass. She's not just a hashtag anymore. She's a target. The front door bangs open behind her. General Leonard Monroe storming in, his grey jacket, soaked with sweat. "Aisha, get back!" His voice is a blade cutting through her shock. He's 6 feet of coiled muscle, an NSA titan used to commanding chaos, but his eyes flicker with something rare. Fear. He grabs her arm, yanking her, toward the hall as a rock smashes through the window, glass exploding across the hardwood. Shards glint like teeth, and Aisha stumbles, her sketchpad tumbling from her bag. "Dad, what's happening?" she gasps, but the answer's outside, roaring louder. "Get out! You don't belong here!" Leonard shoves her behind the couch, peering out as the mob surges closer. A bottle rockets through the broken pane, shattering against the wall, liquid splashing the curtains. The stench of gasoline hits, sharp and choking, and Aisha's stomach lurches. They're not just yelling, they're armed. A burly guy, in a red cap, steps forward, lighter in hand, flicking it alive. "Burn the thief out!" he bellows, and the crowd roars approval. Leonard curses, low and fierce, dragging Aisha toward the kitchen. "Stay low," he snaps. But she's already scrambling, her knees scraping the floor. Flames erupt on the porch, a whoosh of heat blasting through the open door. The old wood catches fast, crackling like gunfire, orange tongues licking up the railing. Aisha's heart hammers, her mind racing to the art portfolio upstairs, years of sketches for her Duke scholarship. "My work!" she cries, lunging for the stairs, but Leonard hauls her back, his grip iron. "No time, Aisha." Smoke billows in, stinging her eyes, and she coughs, tears streaking her face. The mob's shadows dance outside, silhouettes against the firelight, their chants now a war cry. "Justice for Ralph, clean our streets!" Sirens wail in the distance, faint and useless. 2 cop cars roll up, lights flashing, but the officers climb out slow, casual, like they're strolling to a picnic. Aisha peeks from the kitchen window, hope flaring, but it dies fast. The cops, both white, lean against their hoods, smirking at the blaze. One, a lanky guy with a buzz cut, waves off a neighbor sprinting over, yelling for help. "Just a protest," he drawls, loud enough for Aisha to hear. "They'll tire out." Leonard's jaw clenches, his fists balling. "They're letting it happen," he mutters, and Aisha feels the betrayal sink deeper. The system's not blind, it's winking at her destruction. The fire spreads, chewing the porch, clawing at the siding. Aisha's chest heaves, panic clawing her throat as she pictures her room, her sketches, her future turning to ash. Leonard dials 911, voice clipped. "House fire, 300 Maple Street. Mob attack. Now." The dispatchers cool, promising trucks, but the line crackles and Aisha wonders if they'll bother. The mob's not slowing. A brick sails through another window, shattering a lamp, and glass rains down. She ducks, shards nicking her arm, blood beading hot and red. "Dad, we've got to go," she yells, but he's already moving, shoving her toward the back door. They burst into the yard, the night air a slap of heat and smoke. The fire's roaring now, a beast devouring their home, and Aisha's legs wobble as she staggers over the grass. Leonard pulls her behind the shed, his breathing ragged. "Stay. Here," he orders, peering around the corner. The mob's circling, some peeling off to block the alley, cutting their escape. A pickup screeches up, disgorging 3 guys with crowbars, their eyes wild. Aisha's stomach drops. This isn't a protest, it's a hunt. She thinks of Rollins' warning, "Stay out of trouble, girl," and realizes he's unleashed this somehow. Fire trucks finally scream in, hoses blasting, and the mob scatters, some hurling final rocks that thunk against the shed. Water hisses, steam rising in thick clouds, and Aisha dares to hope it's over. The flames sputter, dying under the deluge, leaving the porch a charred skeleton, the front wall blackened and weeping. She steps out, trembling, clutching Leonard's arm. "We're safe," she whispers, but her voice shakes, uncertain. The cops saunter over, one kicking a singed plank. "Looks contained," he says, shrugging. "You're lucky." Lucky? Aisha's rage flares, but Leonard squeezes her shoulder, silencing her. They trudge back inside, the air acrid, floors slick with water and ash. Aisha's eyes lock on her backpack, soaked but intact, the sketchpad peeking out, warped but alive. She grabs it, hugging it close, a shred of her dream still breathing. Upstairs, her room's a ruin, portfolio gone, sketches reduced to cinders, drifting on the breeze. Tears spill hot and silent as Leonard surveys the wreckage, his face a mask of fury. "This is war," he growls, and Aisha nods, wiping her cheeks. She thinks the nightmare's peaked, that they've survived the worst. She's dead wrong. Hours later at 3 a.m, she's curled on the couch, the house a damp tomb around her. Leonard's on the phone with insurance, voice low, when a crash jolts her awake. A Molotov cocktail explodes through her bedroom window. Upstairs, a fireball blooming in the dark. Glass sprays, flames roaring anew, and Aisha screams, scrambling back as heat blasts down the stairs. Leonard drops the phone, sprinting to her, pulling her out the back again. The fire's smaller, contained to her room, but the message is clear. They're not done. The bottle's base, smouldering on the lawn, bears a scrawled note. "Next time you burn." Aisha stares at it, her body numb, the sketchpad trembling in her hands. The mob's gone, firefighters dousing this second blaze. But the cops don't even pretend to care now, lounging by their cars, laughing. Leonard's on them in seconds, towering over the lanky one. "Do your job," he snarls, but the cop just smirks. "File a report, pal." Aisha's knees buckle, the weight of it, crushing her. Her home, her art, her safety, all shredded because Ralph's lie lit a fuse and Rollins' dismissal fanned it. The viral video wasn't the end. It was the signal. Who's pulling these strings? She sinks to the grass, the night pressing in, her world a smouldering wreck. Leonard kneels beside her, his hand firm on her back. "We'll fight this, Aisha. I promise." His voice is steel, but she hears the crack beneath it. She nods, clutching the sketchpad, its damp pages her last anchor. The mob's scattered, the fire's out, but the threat lingers, a shadow growing darker. She thought the courtroom was the battlefield, but this is something else, something personal, vicious and unstoppable. Her scholarship, her future, her family, all hang by a thread now, and the night's silence whispers a truth. This is just the beginning. Taisha Monroe wakes to the stench of smoke and damp ash, her body aching on the sagging couch in what's left of her Charlotte home. It's 6 a.m., the morning after the mob torched her porch and a Molotov cocktail gutted her bedroom. Her sketchpad lies beside her, its warped pages a fragile tether to the scholarship she's still chasing. The house creaks, half a ruin with blackened walls and soggy floors from the firefighters' hoses. She rubs her eyes, the sting of last night's tears lingering, and glances at General Leonard Monroe, her dad, hunched over the kitchen table. He's on his third coffee, phone pressed to his ear, voice a low growl as he battles insurance for a hotel voucher. She thinks the worst is behind them, a naive flicker of hope in the grey dawn. She's about to learn how wrong she is. The doorbell buzzes, sharp and insistent, jolting her upright. Leonard frowns, setting his mug down, and strides to the door. Aisha follows, barefoot on the cold tile, peering over his shoulder. Two cops stand there, the same lanky buzz-cut guy from last night and a stocky partner with a permanent scowl. "Leonard Monroe?" the lanky one asks, voice flat. "That's me," her dad replies, arms crossed. "And Aisha Monroe," the cop adds, eyes locking on her. "You're under arrest for arson." Aisha's breath stops, her mind blanking. Arson? Her own house? The words don't compute, but the cuffs glinting in the cop's hand snap her back. "What the hell?" Leonard barks, stepping between them. "She's the victim here." The stocky cop smirks, pulling a warrant from his pocket. "Got witnesses. She bought gasoline at the Quick Stop on Pine Street yesterday, lit her own place up for attention after that mall stunt." Aisha's knees wobble, disbelief crashing over her. "That's a lie. I was at school all day, then the courthouse." Her voice cracks, but the cops don't flinch. They shove past Leonard, grabbing her arms, metal biting her wrists as they cuff her. She twists, panic surging. "Dad, I didn't do this!" He's already on them, towering over the lanky one. "You've got no proof. Let her go. The cops." Ignore him, dragging Aisha down the steps. She stumbles, sneakers still inside, her bare feet scraping gravel. Neighbors peek from windows, curtains twitching, but no one steps out. The cruiser's back door yawns open and they shove her in, the vinyl seat cold against her legs. Leonard follows, fists clenched, shouting, "This is a setup. Who's behind?" "Kit?" The lanky cop slams the door, muttering, "Take it up with the judge." Aisha's heart pounds, the world blurring as they peel away. She catches her dad's face, etched with fury before he's gone, swallowed by the morning haze. At the precinct, they haul her into a concrete box. No windows, just a flickering bulb overhead. Her cuffs clank as they chain her to a table, the metal chair icy through her jeans. A detective, a wiry guy with a mustache, saunters in, tossing a file down. "3 witnesses saw you at the gas station, Aisha. Can't wiggle out of this one." She stares, numb. "I wasn't there. Check my school records, the bus cameras." He chuckles, leaning close, breath sour with tobacco. "Funny how witnesses don't care about that. You're looking at 10 years. 10 years? Her stomach drops, the sketchpad flashing in her mind, Duke slipping away like smoke. Hours crawl by, her wrists raw, until Leonard storms in, a wad of cash from their emergency fund buying her bail. $20,000. A gut punch to their savings, but he doesn't blink, signing the papers with a scowl. "We're suing," he growls as they uncuff her. Aisha rubs her arms, relief flooding her, thinking they'll fight this lie together. She's free for now, and clings to that as they head to a cheap hotel off I-85. The Red Roof Inn's neon sign buzzing in the dusk. Her bare feet slap the pavement, her sneakers lost to the chaos. She showers, the hot water washing away grime, but not the dread coiling in her chest. They're barely settled, Leonard pacing the cramped room, when a shadow flickers outside the window. Aisha glances up, curious, then freezes. A man in a black hoodie lurks by the parking lot, his face obscured, a pistol glinting in his hand. "Dad!" she hisses, pointing. Leonard spins, eyes narrowing, and yanks her to the floor just as a bullet cracks the glass, splintering it inward. Shards rain down, nicking her cheek, and she yelps, crawling under the bed. The shooter fires again, the shot thudding into the wall, plaster dust choking the air. Leonard grabs his phone, dialing 911, but Aisha's mind races. Who wants her dead? Footsteps crunch outside, then fade, tires squealing as the gunman bolts. Cops arrive, slow and smirking. The same lanky one from before. "Probably a random," he says, shrugging, not even dusting for prints. Leonard's voice is ice. "That was a hit. Check the cameras." The cop snorts, walking off, and Aisha's gut twists. This isn't random, it's Ralph Hensley and Judge Rollins, she's sure, striking back after the dismissal. She thinks she's safe, huddled with her dad. The hotel door locked tight. She's wrong again, and the next blow lands like a sledgehammer. At midnight, sirens scream closer, red and blue lights flooding the room. The door bursts open, SWAT team storming in, rifles raised. "Aisha Monroe, hands up!" A masked officer bellows. She scrambles up, heart in her throat, palms high. "What's happening?" Leonard roars, lunging forward, but they shove him back, pinning him to the wall. "She's a fugitive terrorist," the leader snaps, flashing a tablet with grainy footage. Aisha, or someone doctored to look like her, tossing a Molotov cocktail at her own house. "That's fake," she screams, but they don't listen, cuffing her again, tighter this time, metal cutting her skin. Leonard fights, elbowing a cop, but they tackle him, boots on his back. "She's innocent," he yells, voice muffled against the carpet. Aisha's dragged out, the night air biting her bare feet, the SWAT van looming like a black beast. They hurl her inside, the door clanging shut, and she collapses against the wall, breath ragged. The footage loops in her mind, a nightmare she can't unsee. Ralph's witnesses, the bounty hunter, now this? It's a machine grinding her down, each gear sharper than the last. Her bail's void, her freedom a lie, and she's a terrorist now, hunted by a system that's already written her end. The van lurches, speeding through Charlotte's streets, and Aisha's eyes burn, tears spilling free. She thinks of her mom, Dr. Erica Monroe, safe at her lab, oblivious to this hell. She thinks of her sketchpad left in the hotel, her art, her only voice, now silenced. Leonard's pinned back there, helpless, and she's alone, caged, the weight of it crushing her. Ralph's lie at the mall, Rollins' sneer in court, the mob's fire, they're all threads in this noose. She dodges a bullet, thinks she's clear, but the SWAT raid proves it. Every step forward drags her deeper into their trap. Drop a comment with number 1 if you're furious at how fast they framed Aisha, or number 2 if you think, Leonard should have fought harder. Hit that like button if this racist setup's got your blood boiling, and subscribe to see how she claws out of this pit. Picture yourself in her spot, cuffs biting, labeled a terrorist for nothing. How do you keep hope alive? Speaking of pits, what happens when even her lawyer turns against her? Stay tuned for the next twist. Aisha Monroe slumps against the steel wall of the SWAT van, her bare feet numb on the cold floor, wrists raw from cuffs that dig like teeth. The engine rumbles, Charlotte's streets a blur through the tiny barred window, red and blue lights, painting her face in jagged streaks. She's 18 hours into this nightmare, labeled a fugitive terrorist after doctored footage pinned her for torching her own house. Her dad, General Leonard Monroe, is back at the hotel, pinned by cops, his NSA clout useless against this storm. She's alone, breath shallow, the sketchpad she'd clung to left behind, her scholarship dreams fading like smoke. The van jolts, and she braces, thinking the precinct's next. She's wrong. It screeches to a stop outside a brick bunker. Not the station, but a holding cell off Tryon Street, a grey slab of concrete squatting under sodium lights. The SWAT team hauls her out, boots thudding, rifles glinting, and shoves her through a side door. The air's damp, reeking of mildew and despair, the kind of place that swallows people whole. They uncuff her, tossing her into a 6x6 cage, with a stained mattress and a flickering bulb. "Sit tight, terrorist," one grunts, slamming the bars shut. Aisha sinks to the floor, knees up, head spinning. She's got no phone, no lawyer, no plan. Just a gnawing dread that this is Ralph Hensley and Judge Rollins' endgame. Hours bleed together, the bulb buzzing like a wasp trapped in her skull. Footsteps echo at dawn, and her lawyer, Carla Evans, strides in, her buzz cut sharp under the dim light. Aisha scrambles up, relief flooding her. "Carla, thank God. They're saying I burned my house, shot at us, it's all fake." Carla's face is tight, her usual fire dimmed, but she nods, clutching a briefcase. "I know, Aisha, your dad called, we're fighting this." She pulls out a laptop, clicking fast, and Aisha's pulse steadies. Carla's her anchor, the one who crushed Rollins' theft charge in court. She'll fix this, right? The screen flickers, grainy mall footage loading. It's Craft Haven, time-stamped from that day, showing Aisha scanning her sketchpad alone, no Latino boy in sight. Then a gas station clip, empty, no Aisha, no gasoline cans, just a bored clerk. "Ralph's witnesses lied," Carla says, voice firm. "This proves you weren't there. The arson charge collapses with this." Aisha's chest loosens, a shaky laugh escaping. "You're a genius. We've got them now." Carla's lips twitch, almost a smile, and Aisha thinks it's over, that truth's finally clawing back. She pictures Rollins' sneer fading, Ralph's smug face crumpling. She's wrong again, and the fall's brutal. Carla shuts the laptop. Standing. "I'll file an emergency motion, sit tight." She bangs on the bars, a guard letting her out, and Aisha sinks back, hope flickering like a candle in a draft. She waits, counting cracks in the wall, imagining her dad rallying his. NSA contacts. Hours drag, the bulb dimming, then flaring. At noon, sirens wail outside, and Aisha tenses, expecting release. Instead, the guard stomps in, face blank. "Move it, Monroe, transport." Her stomach drops. "Transport where? My lawyer's filing." He shrugs, cuffing her, dragging her to a black SUV. She twists, shouting, "Call Carla Evans." "But—" He shoves her in, the door slamming like a coffin lid. The SUV peels out, weaving through Charlotte's backroads, the driver silent, a hulking guy with a shaved head. Aisha's mind races. This isn't protocol, no precinct, no court. Her bare feet press the floor, cold sweat beading her neck. They hit a warehouse district, abandoned lots stretching under a bruised sky, and the SUV stops at a rusted hangar. The driver yanks her out, marching her inside. Dust chokes the air, broken crates littering the floor, and Aisha's gut screams danger. Then she sees it, Carla's briefcase, open on a table, papers scattered. Her heart stops. What's it doing? Here, footsteps thud behind her, and Carla steps from the shadows, her face pale, eyes darting. "Aisha," she whispers, voice cracking. "I'm sorry." Before Aisha can speak, two masked thugs in black surge forward, fists flying. One slams Carla's head against the wall, a sickening crunch echoing, and she crumples, blood pooling. Under her buzz cut. Aisha screams, lunging, but the second thug grabs her, pinning her arms. "Shut up," he snarls, breath hot on her neck. A note flutters from Carla's hand, landing at Aisha's feet. "Drop it, or she's next." Her blood runs cold. Carla didn't fight, she broke. The thug shoves her to a chair, tying her wrists with rope that bites her skin. "Your lawyer squealed," he growls, voice muffled by the mask. "Told us where you'd be." Rollins says hi. Aisha's mind reels, betrayal slicing deeper than the cuffs ever did. Carla, her rock, sold her out. The footage, the motion, all a lie to lure her here. She trusted Carla, believed in her, and now she's bleeding out 10 feet away. The thug kicks Carla's laptop, screen shattering, the evidence gone. Aisha's hope gutters, a candle snuffed in the wind. Outside an engine roars and tires screech. Aisha twists, praying it's Leonard, but the thugs tense, one pulling a gun. "Move her," he snaps, and they drag her to a back room, a steel box with no windows. She kicks, screaming, "My dad'll find you." But a fist slams her jaw, stars bursting in her vision. They hurl her inside, the door clanging shut, and she hits the concrete, breath ragged. Then a blast rocks the hangar, a deafening boom shaking the walls. She scrambles up, heart pounding, and peers through a crack. The front's a fireball, the SUV engulfed, flames licking the roof. Smoke pours in, thick and black, and Aisha coughs, eyes streaming. The thugs shout, fleeing, their footsteps fading as the fire spreads. She bangs the door, rope cutting her wrists, but it holds. Heat seeps through, the crack glowing orange, and she thinks she's dead, burned alive because Carla cracked. Then tires squeal again, and a crash splinters the front wall. Leonard's voice cuts through, raw and desperate. "Aisha!" He's here somehow. With a pickup he's rammed into the hangar. She yells, "Back room!" and he's there, kicking. The door down, face streaked with soot. He cuts her free, pulling her through the inferno, flames singeing her hair. They stumble outside, the hangar collapsing behind them, a pyre for Carla's betrayal. Aisha gasps, clinging to him, the car bomb's heat still blasting her back. "She sold me out," she chokes, and Leonard's eyes harden, fury boiling beneath. "Rollins," he spits, hauling her to the truck. "He's behind it." Aisha nods, jaw throbbing, the rope burns stinging. She thought Carla's footage was her lifeline, that she'd won a round. Instead it was bait, and she's deeper in the trap, Rollins' claws tightening. They speed off, the city a blur, Leonard's knuckles white on the wheel. Aisha's bare feet bleed, glass shards embedded, but she barely feels it. Carla's face flashes, bloodied and still, a trusted ally turned traitor. The evidence, her one shot, is ash now, and Rollins knows where she is. She glances at her dad, his silence a storm brewing. She dodged the bomb by seconds, thinks she's safe with him. But the war's just heating up, and the next blows, already falling, sharper, deadlier and closer than she can imagine. Aisha Munro crouches in the passenger seat of her dad's battered pickup, the engine growling, as General Leonard Munro floors it through Charlotte's back roads. Her bare feet sting, glass shards from the hangar fire digging into her soles, blood smearing the floor mat. The night's a blur of smoke and terror, Carla's betrayal still a fresh wound, her bloodied face haunting Aisha's every blink. The car bomb's heat lingers on her skin, singeing her braids, a reminder she's alive by seconds. Leonard's jaw is locked, eyes scanning the rear view, his grey jacket torn from ramming the warehouse to save her. She's underground now, off the grid, a fugitive terrorist in the system's eyes. She thinks they'll hide, regroup, fight back. She's about to face a nightmare that makes the bomb look tame. They ditch the truck in a wooded lot off Highway 49, Leonard leading her through pines that claw her arms, the air thick with sap and silence. He's got a safe house, a rundown trailer stashed by an old NSA buddy 10 miles out. "No phones, no traces," he mutters, handing her a burner from his pocket. Aisha nods, clutching it, her rope-burned wrists throbbing under the moonlight. The trailer's a tin box, rusted and sagging, but inside it's stocked. Canned food. A cot. A radio crackling static. She collapses, exhaustion pulling her under, thinking they've slipped Rollins' grasp. Dawn breaks that hope like glass. The radio spits news at 7 a.m. Leonard twisting the dial as coffee brews on a hot plate. Judge Victor Rollins' voice cuts through, nasal and smug, a live broadcast from Charlotte's courthouse steps. Aisha? Monroe is a public menace, he declares, words dripping venom. Arson, terrorism, now an attack on her own lawyer. She's a threat to our city. Aisha's stomach flips, coffee forgotten. He's lying, she snaps, lunging for the radio, but Leonard holds her back, face grim. He's flipping. At Carla's beating, the bomb, he's pinning it all on you. Her breath hitches. Rollins is rewriting her life, and the world swallowing it whole. By noon, the trailer's TV, a relic with rabbit ears, flickers to life. A breaking news banner screams, "Teen terrorist targets attorney." Footage rolls, grainy but damning. Aisha's face doctored again, swinging a bat at Carla's head. Her jaw drops, rage boiling. "That's not me," Leonard curses, slamming the table. "Ralph's cartel's got tech. They're burying us." The anchor cuts to Rollins, his robe swapped for a suit, eyes glinting. "We won't tolerate." Vigilante justice against our own. She'll face the law. Aisha's fists clench, nails biting her palms. Law? This is a lynching with a gavel. Hours later, a chopper buzzes overhead, its spotlight slicing through the trailer's grimy window. Leonard kills the lights, shoving Aisha under the cot. "Stay down," he whispers, peering out. The beam dances, then fades, but her pulse doesn't slow. "They're hunting me," she breathes, and he nods, grim. Rollins got reach. He dials his NSA contacts on the burner, voice low, tracing the broadcast. "Fort Bragg's got a team on it," he says after, but Aisha's not sure it's enough. She's a ghost now, hiding, thinking they'll outlast this smear. Then the real trap springs. At midnight, the trailer door bangs open, wood splintering under a boot. Aisha jolts awake, Leonard grabbing a kitchen knife, but it's too late. 6 figures swarm in, vigilantes in camo and ski masks, reeking of beer and hate. "Got her!" one bellows, a wiry guy with a bat, swinging it at Leonard's head. He ducks, slashing back, but they pile on, fists and boots flying. Aisha screams, lunging, but a meaty hand clamps her throat, slamming her to the floor. "Time for justice, thief," the leader growls, a hulking man with a Confederate tattoo peeking from his sleeve. Her vision blurs, panic clawing as they drag her outside. They hurl her into a van, tires screeching as it tears down dirt roads. Leonard's shouts fade, muffled by the fight, and Aisha's stomach twists. They've got her, a prize for Rollins. War. The van stops at an old mill, its rusted silos looming under a half-moon. Inside, they tie her to a chair, rope cutting her ankles, wrists already raw from last night. A camera blinks red, perched on a tripod, and the leader flips it on, live streaming to a dark web feed. "Citizen's trial," he announces, voice thick with glee. "Aisha Monroe guilty of ruining our town. Sentence execution at dawn." Her heart stops, breath freezing as the chat explodes online. "Hang her! Burn the rat!" The screen glows with thousands watching, numbers climbing fast. Aisha twists, rope burning, but the knots hold. The wiry guy rigs a noose, hemp, rough and brown, dangling it from a beam. "Rollins says you're done," he sneers, tightening it. "Ralph's boys funded this, you're a lesson." Her mind races. Ralph's cartel, Rollins' reach, a machine of hate crushing her. She's not a terrorist, not a thief, just a black girl who dared exist, and now she's meat for their show. The leader paces, a pistol in his belt, grinning, at the camera. 6 hours till sunrise. Say your prayers." Aisha's throat closes, fear clawing, but she forces her voice out. "My dad'll find you. You're dead." He laughs, backhanding her, blood trickling from her lip. "He's bleeding out back there, no heroes tonight." Her chest caves, Leonard's face flashing, crumpled in the trailer. She's alone, the noose swaying, the chat cheering her death. She thinks of her mom, Dr. Erica Monroe, safe at her lab, oblivious. She thinks of her sketchpad, ash now. She's got nothing left. Minutes tick, the mill's damp air chilling her bones. The vigilantes drink, passing a flask, their laughter grating her skull. Aisha pulls at the ropes, skin peeling, but they're tight, her strength fading. The camera's red eye stares unblinking, broadcasting her doom. She's counting seconds, praying Leonard's alive, when a crackle cuts the night. The radio in the corner flares, static bursting into a voice. "Target located, move in." The vigilantes freeze, heads snapping, and Aisha's pulse leaps. NSA, her dad's team. Headlights flood the mill, tires screeching outside. The leader curses, grabbing his gun, but the doors blast open, black-clad figures storming in. Gunshots pop sharp and fast, and the vigilantes scatter, two dropping, blood pooling on the concrete. Aisha ducks, chair tipping, her cheek slamming the floor as chaos erupts. Leonard bursts through, bruised and limping, a Glock in hand, his team fanning out. "Aisha!" he yells, cutting her free, the noose falling limp. She staggers up, clinging to him, sobs breaking loose as the feed cuts, the camera smashed. They stumble out, the mill a war zone, vigilantes cuffed or bleeding. Leonard's NSA contacts trace the stream, pinpointing her in time. The noose inches from her neck. She's safe, trembling in his arms, thinking it's over. But as they climb into a black SUV, the radio crackles again. Rollins' voice, live on air, fills the cabin. "Due to this violence, I'm declaring a curfew on all black neighborhoods. Monroe's chaos ends now." Aisha's relief shatters, her win a mirage. Rollins isn't done, he's tightening the screws, and her city's the next battlefield. Drop. A comment with number 1 if you're stunned Rollins turned a rescue into a curfew, or number 2 if you think Aisha should have fought the vigilantes harder. Smash that like button if this live-streamed nightmare's got you hooked, and subscribe to see her next stand. Imagine you're tied up, a noose overhead, cameras rolling. What keeps you sane? Speaking of sanity, how does she bounce back when evidence finally surfaces? Buckle up for the next chapter. Aisha Monroe huddles in the back of an NSA SUV, her rope-burned wrists trembling as General Leonard Monroe guns the engine, tearing away from the smoldering mill. Her lip stings, blood crusted from the vigilante's slap, and her bare feet ache. Glass shards still embedded from the hangar fire 2 nights ago. The noose's shadow lingers in her mind, the live-streamed execution cut short by Leonard's team, their gunfire still echoing in her ears. Charlotte's streets blur past, locked under Judge Victor Rollins's curfew, a racist cage clamping down on black neighborhoods after her rescue. She's alive, clinging to her dad, thinking they've dodged the worst. She's about to taste a win that sours fast. Leonard veers onto I-85, the SUV's tires humming, his bruised knuckles tight on the wheel. "We're leaking it," he growls, voice rough from shouting over the mill's chaos. "The vigilante feed. Rollins can't—" "Spin this." Aisha nods, her throat raw, picturing the masked thugs, their Confederate tattoos, Ralph Hensley's funding confession caught on tape. Her dad's NSA contacts, a tight crew from Fort Bragg, hacked the dark web stream before it died, saving every frame. She clutches the burner phone he gave her, its screen blank but heavy with hope. Evidence real this time, not Carla's bait. Can it break Rollins' grip? They hit a safe house, a brick duplex in Gastonia, 30 miles west. Its windows boarded, its yard overgrown. Leonard's team sweeps it, rifles slung, then ushers them in. The air's stale dust motes dancing under a single bulb, but it's a fortress compared to the trailer. Aisha sinks onto a musty couch, her body screaming, while Leonard fires up a laptop, uploading the footage. "Going public," he says, fingers flying. Every news outlet, every platform. By noon, it's live. Vigilantes target teen in Charlotte, judge linked. The mill's chaos floods screens, the noose swaying, chat logs cheering her. Death. Aisha watches, numb, as views climb past 50,000. Protests erupt by dusk, horns blaring outside Charlotte's courthouse, signs stabbing the air. "End Rollins' reign. Justice for Aisha." Her name's a battle cry now, not a slur, and she feels a flicker of pride, fragile but real. Leonard's phone buzzes, his NSA buddy confirming Rollins' office is scrambling. He's caving, Leonard says, a rare grin cracking his face. Curfew's lifted. They're spooked. Aisha exhales, her shoulders easing. The city's awake, pushing back, and she's the spark. She thinks it's a turning point, that truth's finally cutting through Ralph's lies and Rollins' venom. She's wrong, and the backlash is a blade to the gut. Next morning, Leonard hires Jamal Tate, a new lawyer, a wiry black man in his 30s with a rep for dismantling crooked cases. He meets them at the duplex, tie loose, eyes sharp, carrying a file thick as a brick. Got a whistleblower, he says, voice low, flipping it open. Clark from Craft Haven, name's Tasha Green. Saw Ralph plant a stolen pen in your bag that day, then scrubbed the footage. Aisha's pulse leaps, her mall arrest flashing back, the receipt she waved ignored. She's scared, Jamal adds. But she'll testify. Rollins' arson frames toast with this. Aisha's chest swells, a laugh bubbling up. We've got him now. Jamal files an emergency motion, the clerk's affidavit a bombshell, and by afternoon the news shifts. Store clerk confesses, teen framed. Tasha's shaky voice hits airwaves, detailing Ralph's setup, his smirk, as he called the cops. The arson charge crumbles. The fake gas station witnesses exposed as Ralph's cousins, paid off with cash and beer. Aisha's free again. No cuffs, no terrorist label, her name cleared in court records. She hugs Leonard, tears spilling. Thinking she's really won this time. The duplex feels lighter, hope seeping through the cracks. She sketches on a napkin, her art stirring, dreaming of Duke again. Then Rollins strikes, and it's a gut punch. That night, TV screens flare with Rollins' face, live from a press room, his grey eyes cold as steel. Aisha Monroe's chaos has incited riots, he declares, voice booming. Her lies endangered lives. Aisha blinks, the napkin slipping from her hand. What? Leonard's on his feet, fists clenched, as Rollins spins a new tale. We've indicted her for inciting violence. Grand jury's unanimous. Her? Stomach drops. The room tilting. Indicted. She's cleared one charge only to catch a bigger one, a noose tightening in a different shape. He bribed them, Leonard snarls, pacing. Ralph's money's everywhere. Before they can blink, sirens wail, closer this time, a swarm of red and blue flooding the duplex's street. Aisha peers out, heart hammering, and sees riot police, shields up, boots stomping. Aisha Monroe, exit now, a megaphone blares, and Leonard grabs her, pulling her back. They're raiding, he hisses, but it's too late. The door splinters, wood flying, and armored cops storm in, visors down, batons raised. Down! One yells, slamming Leonard to the floor, his groan muffled as they cuff him. Aisha's yanked up, her sketch falling, trampled under boots. They drag her outside, the night air biting her bare feet, but it's not a precinct they're aiming for. A school looms, West Charlotte High, her own turf, its brick walls glowing under floodlights. Classmates gape from the sidewalk, phones out, as cops haul her through the front doors mid-class, algebra equations still chalked on boards. She's a rioter, a cop shouts, loud enough for the halls to hear, and Aisha's face burns, shame and rage warring. Kids scream, teachers freeze, and she's paraded past lockers she's known since freshman year, a criminal in her own world. The principal, a greying woman named Ms. Hargrove, steps out, eyes wide. What's this, she demands. But the cops shove past, slamming Aisha into the gym. They cuff her to a bleacher, the metal cold, the echo of her classmates. Cries ringing. Inciting riots. The lead cop grunts, radio crackling with Rollins' orders. Courts tomorrow. Aisha twists, wrists bleeding, her win shredded in hours. Leonard's hauled off separately, yelling her name, and she's alone again. The gym's silence a tomb. Ralph's Clark confession, the vigilante leak, all flipped against her, a trap she didn't see. She sits, head pounding, the gym's stale air thick with defeat. Her sketch, her freedom, her family all slipping through her fingers. Rollins's voice loops in her mind. Her chaos ends now, and she realizes he's not just a judge. He's a puppet master, pulling strings she can't cut. The protests, her lifeline, are now his weapon, twisted to bury her deeper. She thought Tasha's truth was a shield, that the city's roar would lift her. Instead, it's a noose reborn, and the cops' boots on her school floor prove it. Every victory's a mirage, and Rollins's next blow's already falling. Her bare feet curl, glass shards stabbing, a reminder of every fight she's lost. Leonard's gone, pinned somewhere, and she's a trophy for Rollins' war. The gym's clock ticks, each second a hammer, and she wonders how Jamal'll fight this, if he even can. She's cleared arson, dodged a lynching only to land here, cuffed in her own school, a rioter because she dared breathe. The walls close in, her art a ghost, and she knows this isn't the end. It's a prelude, a setup for something darker, deadlier, and closer to her heart. Aisha Monroe sits shackled to a bleacher in the West Charlotte High Gym, her bare feet stinging with embedded glass, wrists bleeding under cuffs that bite like wire. The air's thick with sweat and dust, the echo of riot police boots still ringing. From yesterday's raid. She's a rioter now, indicted by Judge Victor Rollins's grand jury, her fragile arson victory flipped into a new noose after the vigilante leak sparked protests. Her classmates' screams linger in her ears, their phones catching her humiliation mid-class. She's alone. Leonard hauled off in cuffs, her sketchpad a memory crushed under this nightmare. She thinks the system's done its worst, that Rollins' claws can't reach deeper. She's about to feel a pain that cuts to her core. The gym. Doctor creaks at dawn, a janitor shuffling in, his eyes darting to her before he unlocks her cuffs. "Court's in 2 hours, he mumbles, tossing her a pair of worn sneakers, too big but better than nothing. Aisha slips them on, wincing as glass shifts in her soles, and shuffles out, flanked by 2 cops who don't speak. The precinct's a blur, her release a formality, no charges sticking yet, just Rollins's shadow looming. She's free, technically, and calls Leonard from a payphone, her burner lost in the chaos. "I'm out," she croaks, voice raw. "Where are you?" His reply's curt. "Hotel Red Roof, get here." She hitches a ride with a classmate's mum, a quiet woman who doesn't ask questions, dropping her at the hotel off I-85. Leonard's there, bruised but standing, his grey jacket swapped for a hoodie. "Jamal's working it," he says, hugging her tight, his ribs creaking from the vigilante fight. "Rollins won't win." Aisha nods, sinking onto a lumpy bed, her body a map of aches. She thinks of her mum, Dr. Erica Monroe, safe at her biochem lab in Raleigh, 2 hours away. She's untouched, a lifeline Aisha clings to. Then the sky falls, and it's Ralph Hensley's revenge, sharper than any gavel. At noon, a news chopper's thrum shakes the room, the TV flaring with a live feed. "Breaking explosion at Fort Bragg NSA facility." Aisha's heart stops, Leonard lunging for the remote, volume spiking. Smoke billows on screen, a crater where his office stood, glass and steel twisted like paper. Casualties reported. The anchor drones, and Aisha's scream rips free. "Dad!" He's pale, hands shaking, dialing his team. "Leonard Monroe, status check." A voice crackles back, strained. "Drone strike, sir. 10 down. You're hit." Aisha's knees buckle, picturing him there, his desk, his life, now rubble. He grabs her, steadying. "I'm here, Aisha. Wasn't in today." Relief floods, then sours. "Ralph," she whispers, and Leonard nods, fury etching his face. His cartel's got private muscle. Drones aren't cheap. The TV cuts to Rollins smirking outside the courthouse. "Tragic loss due to Monroe's chaos. We're investigating her ties." Aisha's fists clench, nails digging. Her ties? This is retaliation, pure and vicious, Ralph and Rollins hitting her dad for the vigilante leak. She thinks it's the worst blow, that her mom's still safe, a beacon in this storm. She's wrong, and the next strike shatters her world. By dusk, Leonard's on the phone, rallying NSA survivors, when Aisha's burner buzzes, a text from an unknown number. "Check WRAL News now." Her gut twists, flipping the channel, and there's Erica Monroe, her mum, in cuffs outside her Raleigh lab. "Biochemist arrested for poisoning colleague." The ticker screams, footage showing her dragged from her office, lab coat torn, face stunned. Aisha's breath catches, a sob choking her. "Mom!" The anchor's voice cuts in. Dr. Erica Monroe allegedly spiked a co-worker's coffee with ricin, motive unclear, but sources link it to her daughter's legal troubles. Leonard drops, the phone face ashen. No, not Erica. Aisha's mind spins, ricing a ghost from her mom's PTSD research, never weaponized. It's a frame, she chokes, slamming the bed. Ralph's doing this. Leonard's already dialing, voice steel. Get me Jamal, now. The lawyer's on in seconds, grim. Planted evidence. Lab tech swore she saw Erica do it. Bails. Denied. Aisha's vision blurs, tears spilling. Her mom's gentle hands, her steady voice now caged by lies. She's the target, she knows it, but hitting her family's a new low, a blade twisting deeper than her own cuffs. She thinks it's over, that they've broken her. Then the real gut punch lands. At midnight, the hotel TV loops Erica's arrest. Aisha curled on the floor, numb, when Leonard's burner rings. He answers, face hardening, then whispers, Aisha, it's Malik. Her little brother, 12, a goofy kid with a gap-toothed, grin still at their aunts in Durham. She grabs the phone, voice trembling. Malik? Static crackles, then a man's voice, cold and flat. We've got him. Rollins says back off or he's gone. A click, and the line dies. Aisha screams, the phone clattering, her world imploding. They took him! Leonard's on her, holding tight, but she's shaking, guilt crashing in waves. It's my fault. Leonard dials his team, barking orders, but Aisha's spiraling, Malik's face flashing, his laugh, his Lego forts. Snatched from the yard. The NSA contact confirms, voice tight. Rollins' goons, no trace yet. She staggers up, pacing, her bare feet bleeding through the sneakers, glass grinding deeper. We have to find him. Leonard nods, eyes blazing. We will, they're hitting us all. Aisha's chest heaves, rage and terror warring. Her dad's office bombed, her mom jailed, now Malik kidnapped, all because she fought Ralph's lie at the mall. She's not just a target. She's a curse, dragging her family into this pit. The night stretches. Leonard on the phone, Aisha staring at the TV, Erica's arrest looping like a taunt. She thinks of dodging snipers herself, the vigilante noose, the school raid, all brutal, but survivable. This is her heart ripped out piece by piece. Ralph's cartel, Rollins' power, they're a hydra, each head striking harder. She grabs the hotel notepad, sketching Malik's face, her hand shaking, ink smearing with tears. I'll get you back, she whispers, a vow to the silence. She thinks she's the sole prey, that her fight's the trigger. Then headlights, flare outside and gunfire erupts. Bullets rip through the window, glass exploding, and Aisha dives, the notepad flying. Leonard tackles her behind the bed, his body a shield, as rounds thunk into the walls. Snipers! He yells, crawling for his Glock stashed in his bag. Aisha's ears ring, her breath ragged, the room a war zone. The shots stop, tires squealing, and she peeks up, glass crunching under her elbows. 3 figures melt into the dark, rifles slung, Rollins' hounds hunting her still. Leonard checks her, hands steady. You okay? She nods, blood trickling. From a nick on her arm, guilt drowning her. They're killing us because of me. He pulls her close, voice fierce. Not your fault, their hate. Aisha clings to him, Malik's absence a void, Erica's cuffs a chain, the bombed office, a scar. She's free, but her family's paying. Each blow heavier, sharper, a revenge she can't outrun. The hotel's a tomb now, the night pressing in, and she knows Rollins won't stop. Her fight's not just hers anymore. It's theirs, and the cost is tearing her apart. She thinks she's hit bottom, that this is the end game. But the next strike's already falling, and it's a beast she can't face alone. Drop a comment with number 1 if your gutted Ralph hit Aisha's whole family, or number 2 if you think she's wrong to blame herself. Hit that like button if this revenge spiral's got you raging, and subscribe to see her fight back. Picture your loved ones targeted for your stand. What breaks you first? Speaking of breaking, how does she turn the tables when she's got nothing left? Stay locked in for the next explosion. Aisha Monroe crouches behind the hotel bed, glass shards from the sniper's bullets crunching under her knees, her breath ragged in the dark. The red roof in-room is a war zone, walls pocked with holes, the air thick with plastered dust and fear. Her bare feet, still bleeding from glass embedded days ago, smear red on the carpet, the oversized sneakers lost in the chaos. General Leonard Monroe kneels beside her, his Glock steady, his hoodie soaked with sweat from shielding her. Her family's under siege, his NSA office bombed. Her mom, Dr. Erica Monroe, framed and jailed. Her little brother, Malik, kidnapped by Rollins' goons. She's the spark, her fight against Ralph Hensley's lie now a fire consuming them all. She thinks she's broken, that surrender's the only play left. Then she decides to swing back, and it's a move that nearly ends her. Leonard scans the window. The sniper's headlights gone, silence pressing in like a fist. "We're moving," he growls, pulling her up, his ribs creaking from the vigilante beating 3 nights ago. Aisha staggers, her arm nicked by a bullet, blood trickling warm. "Malik," she chokes, his name a prayer, a wound. "We'll find him," Leonard vows, grabbing a laptop from his bag, its screen cracked but alive. NSA's tracking the call. They bolt, slipping out the back, the night a cloak as they hit a stolen sedan stashed nearby. Aisha's heart hammers, guilt gnawing her bones. She's the target, but they're the casualties, and she's done running. They peel out, heading for a cyber cafe in Concord, 20 miles north, a dingy spot with flickering neon and stale coffee. Leonard's contacts can't hack Rollins' network from Fort Bragg, not with half the base in rubble, so Aisha takes the reins. She's no tech genius, but she's got a classmate, Terrell Banks, a wiry kid with a laptop and a grudge against the system. She texts him from Leonard's burner, "Need you now. Tyrell's there in 30 minutes, hood up, eyes sharp." "Heard about your mum," he mutters, plugging in. "Rollins is dirt. Let's burn him." Aisha nods, her sketchpad gone. But her hands itch to fight with something sharper. Tyrell cracks Rollins' email in an hour, his fingers a blur, pulling strings Aisha can't see. "Old man's sloppy," he says, smirking. "Weak passwords, no encryption." The screen floods with messages, a goldmine of filth. Rollins to Ralph, bury her, funds cleared. Ralph to a cartel boss, drone hit confirmed, kids next. Aisha's stomach twists, Malik's gap-toothed grin flashing, her mom's cuffs tightening in her mind. "He's been taking bribes for years," Tyrell says, scrolling. "Cartel cash, rigged cases, all here." Leonard leans in, eyes blazing. "Enough to sink him. Leak it." Aisha's chest swells, a spark of power flaring. Can she finally hit back? They send it all to a reporter, Lena Cruz, a bulldog from the Charlotte Observer who's been sniffing. Rollins trail. By dawn, it's live. Judge Rollins exposed, bribes, cartel ties in teens persecution. Emails splash across front pages, screenshots of Rollins gloating, "Monroe's done," and Ralph wiring cash for disposal. Aisha watches from the cafe, coffee cold, as the story explodes, views hitting 100,000. Protests reignite, louder, angrier, horns blaring outside Rollins' courthouse. "Size finished," Leonard says, a rare hope in his voice. Aisha feels it, a rush of victory, her family's pain a weapon now. She thinks she's turned the tide, that Rollins' suspension's hours away. She's wrong, and the cost is blood. At noon, sirens wail, a plume of smoke rising downtown. The TV flickers, a breaking alert. Reporter killed in car bombing. Lena Cruz's face fills the screen, then cuts to her sedan, a charred husk, flames licking the pavement. Aisha's breath stops, her victory curdling. "No," she whispers, Tyrell's hands freezing on the keys. The anchor's voice trembles. "Explosion outside the Observer. Sources link it to the Rollins expose." Leonard slams the table, coffee spilling. "Ralph's cartel, they're silencing her." Aisha's knees buckle, guilt crashing in. She leaked it and Lena's dead. Her stand a death sentence. Rollins strikes back by dusk, his face on every channel, calm as ice. Aisha Monroe planted, "Those emails to frame me," he declares, holding forged logs showing her IP, a lie so slick it sticks. She's a cyber terrorist escalating her chaos. Aisha's jaw drops, the cafe spinning. "That's fake," she yells, but the world's already swallowing it. Warrants flash federal now, her face plastered as wanted cyber threat. Tyrell curses, unplugging fast. "They've got bots pushing it. We're cooked." Leonard grabs her, hauling her out. The cafe's back door banging shut as drones hum overhead, their buzz a death knell. They sprint through alleys. Aisha's oversized sneakers slapping wet pavement, her nicked arm throbbing. Drones swarm, black specks against a bruised sky, cameras glinting, hunting her. "Split up," Leonard orders, shoving her toward a dumpster. "Hide," she dives, trash reeking, her heart pounding as rotors close in. A drone hovers, its lens locking on, and she scrambles deeper, plastic bags tangling her legs. Leonard bolts, drawing them off, his figure vanishing as sirens wail closer. She's alone, chest heaving, the leak's triumph a noose tightening. Rollins flipped it, Lena's blood on her hands, and now she's prey in her own city. The drones. Past their hum fading, and Aisha crawls out, mud streaking her face, her family's fate clawing her mind. Malik's gone, Erica's caged, Leonard's running, and she's the spark that lit this hell. She staggers to a payphone, coins shaking in her hand, calling Tyrell. "They're hunting me," she gasps. "What now?" His voice cracks. "Feds. Tapped me, I'm out, sorry, Aisha." The line dies and she sinks, the booth's glass cold against her back. Her counterstrike, her evidence, her hope, all ash now. Rollins lie burying her deeper than the vigilante's noose. She limps through Charlotte's streets, dusk bleeding red, dodging cop cars that prowl like wolves. Her bare feet, glass-ridden, leave bloody prints, each step a stab. She thinks of Malik, his Lego forts, Erica's lab coat, Leonard's Glock, all torn from her by Ralph's cash and Rollins' gavel. The drones circle back, a distant buzz, and she ducks into a storm drain, water sloshing her ankles. The dark her only shield. She's a cyber-terrorist now, a federal ghost. Her leak a bomb that backfired, killing an ally and dooming her more. She thinks she's hit rock bottom, that this is the endgame's edge. But Rollins' next play is already falling, and it's a blade she can't dodge. The drain's damp walls press in, her breath echoing, the burner's last call a lifeline severed. She's got no sketchpad, no art, just rage and despair, a girl who dared fight a system that chews her up. Leonard's out there, hunted too, and she wonders if he'll find Malik, if Erica's breaking in her cell. The drone's hum fades, but the city's a trap, every shadow a threat. Her counterstrike was her stand, her shot, and it's left her bleeding alone, a hunted animal in a war she didn't start. The next blow's coming, and she's got no shield left to raise. Saisha Monroe crouches in a storm drain beneath Charlotte's streets, icy water soaking her ankles, her breath fogging in the damp dark. Her bare feet throb, glass shards from days of chaos grinding deeper, blood swirling in the murk. Mud streaks, her face, her nicked arm pulsing with every heartbeat. The sniper's bullet from the hotel still a fresh scar. Drones hum faintly overhead. Their hunt for her as a cyber-terrorist relentless, after her leaked emails killed reporter Lena Cruz and backfired spectacularly. General Leonard Monroe, her dad, split off to draw them away, leaving her alone. A hunted ghost, her family's shredded. His office bombed, her mom, Dr. Erica Monroe, framed, her brother Malik, kidnapped, and she's the spark that lit this inferno. She thinks she's got no fight left, no allies to lean on. Then a flicker of hope pulls her back, and it's a trap that breaks her. She crawls through the drain, the concrete scraping her knees, until a manhole glints above. She shoves it open, staggering into an alley, the night air biting her soaked skin. Her oversized sneakers, snagged from the school raid, are long gone, her feet raw meat now. A payphone looms, coins still in her pocket from Tyrell's call, and she dials a number Leonard drilled into her. Detective Nate Brooks, a rogue cop who hates Rollins' corruption. "Aisha," his voice crackles, rough but steady. "Where? You at?" She whispers the alley's cross streets, trembling. "Help me, they're everywhere." He's there in 20 minutes, a beat-up Ford screeching up, his lean frame hunched in a trench coat. Nate's 40, grizzled, with a scar slicing, his brow from a bust gone bad. "Rollins a plague," he growls, hauling her into the car. Been tracking his dirt for years. Aisha collapses in the seat, water dripping, her trust thin but desperate. "They've got Malik," she says, voice breaking. "My mum's in jail. Dad's running." Nate nods, eyes hard. "Heard about the leak. Smart but sloppy. We'll hit back harder." He speeds to a safe house, a crumbling shack off Old Statesville Road, its windows taped, its floor littered with takeout boxes. She's safe for now and clings to that, a lifeline in the storm. Inside, Nate boots a laptop, pulling files he's hoarded. Wiretaps, bank records, Rollins' voice bragging about cleaning up trash. "Got a tape," he says, popping a USB in. It's Ralph Hensley, smug and slurring, confessing to the mall frame-up over bourbon with a crony. Planted the pen, called the cops. Rollins said she's ours. Aisha's pulse leaps. Her arrest at Craft Haven replaying. The receipt. She waved, ignored. "This clears me," she breathes, hope surging. Nate grins, rare and jagged. More than that. Ties him to the cartel. We air it live. He's done. She nods, her family's pain fueling her. Can this tape cut the noose? They plan fast, Nate rigging a burner phone to stream, linking to a pirate radio signal he's used to dodge feds. 10 p.m., he says, checking his watch. City hears it, Rollins cracks. Aisha paces, her feet bleeding through socks Nate tossed her, the shack's damp air chilling her bones. She thinks of Malik's laugh, Erica's steady hands, Leonard's fight, all riding on this. At 9:50, Nate dials, the signal pinging, and Aisha holds her breath, the tape's static crackling live. Ralph's voice spills out, a confession. Echoing across Charlotte's airwaves, listeners stunned. She feels it, a wind blooming, Rollins' empire teetering. Then the roof caves in. Footsteps pound outside, a dozen boots shaking the shack. "Police! Open up!" Nate curses, grabbing his gun, but the door explodes inward, splintering wood, and cops swarm, black-clad, visors down. Aisha dives, heart slamming, but a baton cracks her ribs, dropping her. Nate fires, a shot clipping a cop's shoulder, but they're on him, a pile of fists and steel. "Brooks!" she screams, crawling, but a boot slams his skull, blood spraying. And he's down, eyes rolling back, dead. Her ally, her shot, gone in seconds. A cop yanks her up, cuffs biting, and she's screaming, "The tape! It's live!" They don't care. They drag her outside, the night a blur of sirens and floodlights. Nate's body limp in the dirt. The tape seized, USB snapped under a heel, the broadcast cut mid-sentence. Aisha's shoved into a van, her ribs throbbing, blood pooling in her mouth from a split lip. "Rollins' orders," a cop mutters, radio crackling. "Public confession. Now." She's hauled to a plaza downtown, cameras waiting, a crowd gawking under streetlights. Rollins stands, smug in a suit, a podium rigged with mics. "Aisha Monroe," he announces, voice booming, "will admit her crimes." Her stomach drops, the trap snapping shut. Nate's death was the bait and she's the prize. They uncuff her, a gun jabbing her spine, forcing her forward. The crowd murmurs, phones up, live streams flaring across platforms. "Speak," Rollins hisses, off mic, his grey eyes ice. Aisha trembles, her family flashing, Malik's kidnapping. Erica's cell, Leonard's run. The gun presses harder, cold steel on her skin, and she breaks, voice shaking. "I'm guilty. I faked it all. The emails, the riots, everything. Lies spill, each word a knife, her confession broadcast to millions. The crowd gasps, some cheering, "Justice!" Rollins smirks, victorious, and Aisha's spirit cracks, her fight a ghost now, her family's hope buried under her forced words. She's shoved back, cuffed again, the plaza spinning as cops haul her to a van. Her ribs scream, her feet bleed, but the pain's nothing next to the guilt clawing her chest. Nate's blood stains her memory, his tape her last shot. Now dust. Rollins flipped it, his spies in the precinct sniffing her out, turning her ally into a corpse and her stand into a lie. She thinks of Leonard out there hearing her confession, and sobs break free, raw and silent. The van lurches, the city a cage, and she's a puppet, strings cut. Her counterstrike a failure that cost everything. They lock her in a cell, a concrete box under the courthouse, the bulb flickering like her pulse. Her confession loops on a TV outside, a taunt, her voice twisted into a surrender she didn't choose. She sinks to the floor, water still dripping from her clothes, her family's fate a void she can't fill. Malik's gone, Erica's caged, Leonard's hunted, and she's the voice that damned them, forced at gunpoint. Nate's death, the tape's loss, Rollins' grin, they're a noose she can't slip. She thinks she's finished, that this is the bottom, but the war's not over, and the next blow's already falling, a storm she can't outrun. The cell's damp walls close in, her breath echoing. her sketchpad a memory she can't reclaim. She's got no allies, no evidence, just a confession, branding her guilty to a world that's already judged her. Leonard's out there, maybe hearing it, and she wonders if he'll believe it, if he'll keep fighting. The bulb dims, her hope with it, and she knows Rollins won't stop. His claws in her family, her life, her soul. Her alliance with Nate was her last stand, and it's crumbled, leaving her bleeding, alone, a girl who dared defy a system that's now crushed her flat. Aisha Monroe sits slumped in a concrete cell beneath Charlotte's courthouse, her bare feet numb on the icy floor, wrists raw from cuffs that have long since been removed. Water drips from her soaked clothes, pooling around her, a remnant of the storm drain escape 2 nights ago. Her ribs ache from the police baton, her lips split and crusted with blood from Rollins' forced confession, now looping on a TV beyond the bars. "I'm guilty," her voice echoes, a lie torn from her at gunpoint, branding her a cyber-terrorist to millions. Her family's in ruins, General Leonard Monroe hunted, Dr. Erica Monroe jailed, little Malik kidnapped, and Detective Nate Brooks lies dead, his taped confession of Ralph Hensley's frame-up crushed under Rollins' boot. She's broken, a shell, thinking this cell is her grave. Then the walls start cracking, and it's a storm she never saw coming. The bulb overhead flickers, casting jagged shadows, when a roar shakes the building, muffled but fierce. Aisha lifts her head, ears straining, as shouts echo down the hall. "Get out, now!" Footsteps pound, guards scrambling, their radios crackling chaos. She staggers up, gripping the bars, her legs trembling from days of fight and flight. The TV cuts mid-loop, static flaring, then a news ticker. Protest storm courthouse, Rollins under fire. Her pulse leaps, weak but alive. Leonard's voice cuts through her mind. "We'll fight this," and she wonders if he's out. There, if this is his doing. The cell door clanks open, a guard barking, "Move it!" And she's free, shoved into a hall buzzing with panic. Outside, Charlotte's a war zone, the courthouse swarmed by thousands, fists raised, horns blaring. Smoke curls from trash fires, signs stabbing the sky. "End Rollins' corruption." "Free Aisha." Her name's a chant now, a thunder rolling over the plaza, and she stumbles into it, barefoot, soaked, a ghost stepping into light. Cop cars burn, their hoods smashed, and riot police falter, shields cracking under thrown bricks. She spots Leonard, bruised but standing, leading a knot of NSA operatives in black, their faces grim. "Aisha!" he yells, sprinting, and she collapses into him, sobs breaking loose, his arms a fortress against the storm. He pulls her behind a barricade, his Glock holstered, his voice steady. "I went legal," he says, breathless. "NSA dumped everything to Congress. Rollins. Bribes Ralph's cartel, all of it." Aisha blinks, the weight sinking in. He's unleashed the beast, his rank pulling strings she couldn't reach, exposing the judge's rot to the highest level. Protesters swell, a tide crashing, and she sees faces she knows, classmates, neighbors, strangers, roaring for her. The courthouse windows shatter, glass raining, and Rollins' empire trembles, his curfew, his lies, his noose, all buckling under this fury. She thinks it's over, that justice is clawing back. Then it gets messy. Leonard's burner buzzes, a contact from Fort Bragg. "Whistleblowers," he says, eyes blazing. "Clerks, cops, a juror, they're talking." Aisha's chest tightens, hope surging as names spill. Tasha Green from Craft Haven, confessing Ralph's frame-up again. A precinct cop admitting to planting evidence. A grand juror exposing Rollins' bribes. The TV, propped on a protester's truck, flares with updates. Mass testimony against Judge Rollins. The system's cracking, voices rising from the shadows, a chorus she sparked with her fight. Leonard grins, rare and fierce. "He's done, Aisha, we've got him." She nods, tears streaking her muddied face, thinking her family's salvation is near. By noon the courthouse burns, flames licking its brick face, a symbol of Rollins' reign torched by the mob. Aisha watches, numb, as cops retreat, their lines broken, the plaza a sea of rage and triumph. Leonard's team secures her, moving her to a black SUV, but she's staring at the fire, her confessions echo fading in this chaos. "Malik," she whispers, and Leonard squeezes her shoulder. We're close, tracking the call. Erica's frame-up, the drone strike, the kidnapping, all unraveling as whistleblowers flood the airwaves, their words a battering ram. She's free, the cell behind her, thinking the war's won. Then Ralph strikes and it's a blow that rips her apart. They're rolling out, the SUV weaving through debris, when a figure staggers from an alley, shotgun raised. It's Ralph Hensley, unhinged, his patchy beard wild, eyes bloodshot with fury. "You destroyed everything," he screams, leveling the barrel at Aisha through the open window. Leonard swerves, yelling, "Down!" but Ralph fires, the blast deafening, glass exploding inward. Aisha ducks, shards slicing her cheek, but Leonard grunts, slumping, blood blooming across his chest. "Dad!" she shrieks, lunging, pressing. Her hands to the wound, hot and wet, his breath ragged. The SUV screeches, Ralph tackled by NSA agents, his shotgun clattering, but the damage is done. Leonard's fading, eyes fluttering, his hand gripping hers. "Keep fighting," he gasps, blood bubbling his lips. Aisha sobs, shaking him. "No, stay with me." Agents swarm, pulling her back, medics rushing in, but his pulse weakens, his grip slackening. Ralph's cuffed, spitting curses. "She's the curse!" as they drag him off, his cartel crumbling, but his venom still lethal. Aisha's dragged from the SUV, knees hitting pavement, her dad's blood staining her hands. Her world collapsing as paramedics work, their shouts a blur. He's gone, flatlining in the chaos, and she's screaming. A raw, guttural wail swallowed by the riot's roar. The plaza spins, protesters oblivious, their victory a hollow echo, as Aisha kneels, numb, Leonard's body wheeled away. Agents secure. Her voice is distant. He's arrested, Ralph's done, but it's ash in her mouth. Her dad, her rock, the NSA titan who broke Rollins is dead, a final blow from a system that's chewed her family to pieces. The courthouse burns, a pyre for her fight, and she's alone, Malik still missing, Erica still caged, her confession a lie that cost her everything. She thinks it's the end, that Rollins' fall is her win. But Ralph's shotgun carved a wound, deeper than any cell. Hours blur, the riot fading, the city a smoldering husk as NSA agents hustle her to a safe house, a sterile condo downtown. TVs loop the collapse. Rollins indicted, cartel ties confirmed. Ralph's arrested, his empire dust, whistleblowers flooding courts with proof. Erica's release is pending, Malik's trail hot, but Aisha's empty, staring at her hands, Leonard's blood crusted under her nails. The system's cracking, justice clawing through, but her dad's gone, a price she never meant to pay. She's free, the war tilting her way, but the victory's a ghost, haunting her with what's lost. Rollins' fall is real, but Ralph's. Vengeance lingers, a shadow she can't shake. She curls on a cot, the condo's silence pressing in, her feet still bleeding, her ribs a dull ache. The TV drones, protesters cheering, but she's deaf to it. Malik's fate a void. Erica's freedom a flicker she can't grasp. Leonard's voice, "We'll fight this," echoes. A promise she'll keep, but the cost is her soul, ripped raw. The courthouse ashes cool, Rollins' gavel silenced, and she's the spark that burned it down, a girl who dared defy a beast now staggering from its corpse. She thinks this is closure, that the system's collapse heals her. But the next twists, falling, and it's a knife she never saw. Aisha Monroe stands rigid in a Charlotte cemetery, the late March wind cutting through her borrowed black coat, her bare feet stinging in ill-fitting shoes scavenged from a safe house closet. The air smells of wet earth and grief. Mourners blur around General Leonard Monroe's flag-draped casket. Her hands tremble, crusted with his blood, her ribs throbbing from days of beatings, her face a map of cuts from glass and fists. 3 days ago, Ralph Hensley's shotgun stole her dad in the riot's chaos. A final blow after Judge Victor Rollins's empire crumbled under protests and whistleblowers. Her mom, Dr. Erica Monroe, is free now, her frame-up exposed, and Malik's trail is hot, but Aisha's hollow, a shell carved by a war she sparked. She thinks this funeral is closure, a bitter end to her fight. Then the world flips, and it's a twist that ignites her anew. The preacher's voice drones, "A hero lost," as NSA brass salute, their medals glinting under a grey sky. Erica stands beside Aisha, her lab coat swapped for black, her face etched with exhaustion from jail, her hand gripping Aisha's tight. Malik's still missing. Rollins' goons silent, but the system's cracking. Ralph's indicted, his cartel imploding. The courthouse ashes a testament to her stand. Aisha's name cleared. Arson, riots, cyber-terrorism. All lies peeled back by truth. Protesters still chant downtown, "Justice for Aisha," a roar that echoes here, a movement born from her pain. She steps forward, voice raw, to speak. "Dad fought for me, for us, this isn't over." Her words shake, a vow to the crowd, to Malik, to herself. She thinks it's her last stand, a spark to carry on. She's wrong, and the revelation's a bomb. The service ends, mourners drifting when a black SUV rolls up, NSA plates gleaming. A woman steps out, crisp in uniform, her face stern but familiar. Colonel Dana Price, Leonard's second at Fort Bragg. "Aisha," she says, voice low, handing her a burner phone. "Read it." Aisha's gut twists, taking it, the screen lighting with a text. "Your dad's alive, they faked it. Rollins knows." Her breath stops, the world tilting, the casket a lie 10 feet away. "What?" Erica gasps, snatching the phone, her scientist's mind racing. "Staged," Dana whispers. "Extraction op. He's deep cover hunting Malik. Rollins forced the play." Aisha's knees buckle, rage and hope warring. Her dad's blood a ruse, his death a shield. She staggers back, staring at the grave, the flag a prop, mourners oblivious. "He's alive?" she chokes, and Dana nods, eyes hard. "Rollins leaked it to break you. Leonard's tracking the cartel's core. Malik's close." Aisha's chest heaves, tears spilling. Her family's pain a chess move in a war she thought she'd won. Erica clutches her, whispering, "He's fighting for us," but Aisha's mind spins. Leonard alive, Malik out there, Rollins pulling strings from a cell. The system's down, indicted by Congress, whistleblowers flooding courts. But he's not beaten, his claws still sharp. She thinks she's free, a hero at 18, her speech a torch igniting change. Then the real fight bares its teeth. By dusk, the White House calls, a voice crisp on Dana's line. "Aisha Monroe invited to speak tomorrow." Her name's national now, a symbol of racial justice. Her story trending, hashtags like Aisha Lives and Rollins Falls viral. Erica's release hits headlines, framed scientist freed, and Ralph's cartel unravels, arrests piling up. Aisha's offered a podium, a chance to shape reform, her pain a megaphone for the silenced. She nods, numb, the condo safe house buzzing with NSA agents prepping her move. She sketches Malik's face on a napkin, her art reborn, thinking, she's won, that Leonard's alive means victory. But the text loops in her skull, Rollins knows a shadow creeping back. She steps off the podium in her mind, imagining the speech, her voice steady. "We broke a system, but it's not dead." The crowd roars in her head, a nation listening. Her family's fight a spark for more. She's 18, a warrior forged in fire, her bare feet a testament to every step. Mall arrest, mob attack, vigilante noose, sniper shots. Leonard's alive, a ghost hunting Malik, and Erica's free, her lab coat waiting. Ralph's cuffed, Rollins indicted, their empire ash, but that text gnaws, a warning she can't shake. She stares at the horizon, Charlotte's skyline dim. Her victory a crown with thorns. The war's not over, it's shifting, and Rollins' fury lingers, a beast wounded but breathing. The condo's silence presses, agents murmuring plans. Erica brewing tea, her hands steady now. Aisha's feet bleed through the shoes, her ribs a dull ache, but she stands taller. Her dad's vow, keep fighting, a pulse in her veins. She's offered a stage, a voice, a chance to rewrite justice, and she'll take it. For Malik, for Leonard, for every kid crushed by Rollins' gavel. The system's cracked, not shattered, and she's the spark that'll burn it clean. But as she grips the napkin, Malik's sketch smudged with tears, the burner buzzes again, a new text flashing. He's watching. Be ready. Her breath catches. Rollins' eyes a ghost in her mind, his reach unbroken, his next move a shadow she can't see. She freezes, staring at the screen, the horizon a question mark, her victory a fragile flame. Leonard's alive, a secret weapon, but Rollins knows. His hate a coil tightening from a cell or beyond. Malik's out there, a boy she'll die to save, and Erica's free, a mother she'll shield. The White House waits, a podium to roar from. But this twist, this fury, it's a war reborn. She's not done, not broken. Her fight a fire that'll rage on. The system's down, but Rollins's shadow looms, and she knows, deep in her gut, the real showdown's coming. A beast she'll face with bare hands and blazing heart. Aisha Monroe's journey in racist judge dismisses black girl's case in court, unaware she's the daughter of a high-ranking NSA officer, reveals raw truths about resilience, systemic injustice, and the cost of defiance. Her fight against a racist judge and a corrupt system teaches that standing up, even when outnumbered, can spark monumental change. Aisha's initial battle over a false theft accusation spiraled into a war that exposed Judge Victor Rollins' bribery, and Ralph Hensley's cartel ties, showing how deeply prejudice can rot institutions. Her persistence, despite losing her home, her art, and nearly her family, underscores the power of courage in the face of relentless oppression. Yet, the story also lays bare a brutal lesson. Justice comes at a steep price. Leonard's faked death, Erica's imprisonment, and Malik's kidnapping highlight that fighting systemic racism often demands personal sacrifice, a toll that can break even the strongest spirits. Aisha's coerced confession and the subsequent collapse of Rollins's empire reveal that truth can prevail, but not without scars. Her father's death was a strategic loss to protect her, yet it left her grappling with guilt and rage. The final twist, with Leonard alive and Rollins still lurking, drives home the hardest truth. Victories against hate are never final. They're battles in an ongoing war. This story urges us to recognize our own power to challenge injustice, but warns that the fight reshapes us, leaving echoes of pain and purpose. What do you take from Aisha's stand? Drop a comment if her resilience inspires you. Hit like if her story fuels your fire, and subscribe or share to join the fight for justice. Thanks for walking this brutal, inspiring path with us. May you find strength to face your own battles and spark change wherever you stand.